Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I'm Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Hey, for those of you who've geeked out on this channel before, you know that I have compared the United States House of Representatives and the United States Senate in the following fashion. The House of Representatives has a tendency to be the cuckoo's nest, the funny farm, the insane asylum, and the U.S. Senate has a tendency to be more of the grown-up table. However, the insanity seems to be spreading everywhere. There are two civilian disarmament bills that dropped in the United States Senate this week. We're going to go through both of them today. I don't think a lot of them are going to end up picking up a lot of traction, but it does educate all of you about what some of your elected officials think of what are supposed to be inalienable rights. So today, let's get you all educated and let's talk about the two very terrible Senate gun control bills. Okay, here's what we're talking about. Two pieces of insanity kicking around in the United States Senate now. That's going to be Senate Bill 3223 as well as Senate Bill 3212. We will go through them individually so that you can understand who's responsible for it, what is the insanity that's contained therein, and we'll also talk about what the likelihood is that either of these two bills really ever see the light of day. Now, Senate Bill 3223 is sponsored by none other than Senator Elizabeth Warren. Now, Miss Warren is not known for coming up with particularly good ideas, and this one will again go into her Hall of Fame of bad ideas. If Senate Bill 3223 were to be enacted into law, what it would do is it would require a background check for all ammunition sales. Let me say that again. You would go through the exact same process to purchase a box of 50 22 LR rounds as you would in purchasing an actual firearm. But as usual, there's a lot more to that bill. Now, I'll give her credit. The name of this bill is the Ammunition Modernization Monitoring Oversight Act, or AMMO. Very clever. And really, rather than break it all down, all you need to do is you go through 18 United States Code Section 922, and anywhere where you see in the statute, or any part of the statute that mentions firearms and background check, you just add the word "and ammunition." So it would read firearms and ammunition anytime you have a background check. And that is essentially what would happen is every single time you want to buy a box of ammo, you're going through a background check. But like I said, there is more. More includes, there will be certain limitations. That is, the federal government will then limit how much and how frequently you can purchase ammo. The actual text of the bill reads, "It shall be unlawful for any person licensed under this chapter to transfer to a person not so licensed, A, during any 5-day period, more than 100 rounds of 50 caliber ammunition, or 2, more than 1,000 rounds of any other caliber of ammunition." That's right. Senator Elizabeth Warren knows exactly how much ammunition you should be purchasing and how frequently. FFLs will have to keep records of all ammunition sales for a minimum of 2 years, and all sales of ammunition shall be reported directly to the United States Attorney General's office within 3 business days. And then finally, what happens if you, God forbid, violate this law? Well, you could face up to 5 years in prison and a $100,000 fine. That is Senate Bill 3223, sponsored by Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren. But if you think that one is ridiculous or ludicrous, well then feast your eyes on Senate Bill 3212, sponsored by none other than Spartacus himself, Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey. This bill, if enacted into legislation, would require every American to obtain a federal license before you could purchase a singular firearm. Let me say that again. Not only do you have to get a federal license to purchase a firearm, you would need a federal license for each firearm that you purchase. Now, I've already had a couple of individuals push back on me saying that no, one license would allow an individual to purchase multitude of firearms. That is not true, and I'm going to show you exactly where in the bill it is. But in order to obtain a license under Senator Booker's legislation here, an individual would need to complete the following. An individual shall be eligible to receive such a license if the individual, 1, has completed training in firearms safety, including 1, a written test to demonstrate knowledge of applicable firearms laws, and 2, hands-on testing, including firing testing to demonstrate safe use and sufficient accuracy of a firearm, and 2, as part of the process for applying for such license, 1, has submitted to a background investigation and criminal history check of the individual, 2, has submitted proof of identity, 3, has submitted fingerprints of the individual, and 4, has submitted identifying information on the firearm the person intends to obtain, including the make, model, and serial number, and the identity of the firearm seller or transferor. So unless you have your firearm already picked out, you don't even get to apply for a license. So, you don't get to go to homecoming or prom until you have your date picked out. Now, there's another section of the bill that specifically states the following. Each license issued under this section shall be valid for the purchase of a single firearm, which shall be purchased not later than 30 days after the date on which the license is issued. So then you have this short window of time after the license is issued that you have to purchase. And can you imagine what some states could do in slowing down their statutory waiting periods then and giving you an impossible chronological window to complete a firearm purchase? Now, if the whole notion of having to get a license to exercise an inalienable right is not offensive enough, consider what Senator Booker believes should be the grounds upon which the Attorney General can deny an application. The Attorney General may deny a license under this section if the Attorney General determines that the applicant poses a significant danger of bodily injury to self or others by possessing, purchasing, or receiving a firearm after examining factors the Attorney General considers are relevant to the determination, including. Okay, so right there, the Attorney General has a whole lot of leeway to just kind of, whatever I decide here, whether this person poses a physical risk to themselves or others, including the factors, but it does not say limited to these factors. And then the factors include A, history of threats or acts of violence towards self or others. What kind of history? Allegations, actual criminal charges, something that was written by a school counselor when they were 7 years old. And then there are other criteria. B, history of use, attempted use, or threatened use of physical force by the applicant against another person. C, whether the applicant is the subject of or has violated a domestic violence or stalking restraining order or protection order. D, any prior arrest, pending charge, or conviction for a violent or serious crime or disorderly person's offense, stalking offense, or domestic violence offense. And that is not a charge that was supported by probable cause. That's certainly not a conviction where there was at least proof beyond a reasonable doubt. This is any arrest. And I can assure you there are a lot of people who get arrested for a lot of things and are never, ever charged with anything. That's not the end of all the reasons the AG can flush your application, though. E, any prior arrest, pending charge, or conviction for an offense involving cruelty to animals. F, history of drug or alcohol abuse or involvement in drug trafficking. Which means if you have a DUI on your record, an argument can be made that there is evidence of alcohol abuse at least on one occasion, and you could be denied your federal firearms license. G, any recent acquisition of firearms, ammunition, or other deadly weapons. And there are a few other criteria, but that last one basically says, well, because you have accumulated other weapons, we therefore determine that you must be dangerous if you have access to weapons. Now, I should point out in both of these pieces of legislation, there is also a request for up to $150 million of increased funding for the NICS background check system, which will obviously be even more inundated than it already is. Okay, so once again, just to recap, Senate Bill 3223, sponsored by Elizabeth Warren, background checks for ammunition. Senate Bill 3212, sponsored by Senator Cory Booker, would require a federal license for all firearm purchases. What is the likelihood that either one of these pieces of legislation make it to the president's desk? There is an incredibly narrow majority of Democrats in the Senate, so mathematically it is possible that this bill can be passed out of the Senate. Mathematically possible. Realistically, it would require every single Democrat to stay firm on that side. I don't think that's going to happen. Even if it made it out of the Senate, though, it has to go to the House of Representatives. There is a Republican majority over there. A new Speaker of the House that appears to be very pro-Second Amendment, and so it would never, ever probably see the light of day once it made it to the House of Representatives. So the reality of the situation is, yes, these are terrible, absolutely horrific pieces of legislation. They are written by two complete dimwits who do not know what they're talking about and have no regard for your constitutional rights, and that's all the bad news. The good news is the likelihood that either one of these ever becomes law is incredibly remote. Listen, we'll link both the bills up down below so you can geek out on it for yourself and see just how bad this legislation is. If you got any other questions about this or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights, we'll go ahead and link up our information down there below so you can contact us. In the meantime, I want everyone to remember that part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation, how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching. Stay safe.